There we go. Good morning, everybody. I'm glad you are here today. We are going to jump right in it. Hey, I have emailed your coaches a new document that has kind of a one-stop shop, everything in one place about all of the resources that I've shared with you. It's got the introductory session, session 1, session 2. Today is session 3 of the actual prep course. So they have that. They are welcome to email that to you. And you can at any point use any of those resources that's on there. I have it set up to where anybody can view it, so you should be good to go there. All right, a couple of things, and this is sort of in cleanup of, we have people sometimes that miss, and so what you are seeing here is the document. Let me move this out of my way. I've got stuff in my way. Okay, so what you are seeing here is the document that I am talking about. And so what it's got a table of contents. After today, this one will be linked. So we've got the introductory session, session 1, session 2. And when you go to like session 1, when you go to that bookmark, you can scroll down and you'll be able to see the agenda. And then you can also go down and get the recording, et cetera, et cetera. So that is how that works. What I need from you guys, though, last week, if you were present, then we scanned this QR code. And so if you have not scanned that QR code and given us that information, we need that. And what that is letting us, the coaches and myself, know who we need to help as far as finding jobs. So for example, it says, hey, I'm going to be a lineman. I'm going to school in Newport, Arkansas, et cetera, et cetera. Or it says, hey, I'm going to go be a driver as soon as I graduate and I do need help sourcing a job. So please scan that. If you have not, do that right now. Scan that. And if you'll fill that out real quick while we are working toward today's goals. So I'm going to leave it for one more second. If for some reason you miss it, your coach has this document in their email right now. Okay, let's go down to session 3. So today we're going to do we're going to just discuss some important sections of the Arkansas Commercial Driver's License Manual. We do have a video over air brakes that we'll come back around to in a little bit. And then we may not do that because we still have quite a bit of introductory information that we need to get to. We may save the air brakes for next week. And I'm figuring out it's going to take us more than 4 weeks to do this. So I'm going to give you some homework today to be working on certain things. And then next week, we'll be able to move on for sure to air brakes. So I'm going to hold on that probably, but here we go. So what we're doing today is we are going to do a comparison of the Arkansas Driver's License Manual to the Trucking Truth section. So if you look at the Arkansas Driver's License Manual, you have that in a link. And so I'm going to go to it real quick. So just to show you where that is at, up here on session 1, you see session 1 on this document that your coaches will send to you. When you scroll down, we got the app that we're using, and then we've got the Arkansas CDL manual. That is what I am talking about. And so this manual right here is the one that we're discussing. I'm going to move something out of my way. Okay, so going back to our prep course, we are in session 3. We want to look at a couple of things. We're going to go to section 1, pages 7 and 8, and talk just a little bit about disqualifications. And when we say disqualifications, what we mean by that are ways to lose your license. And so I've hit on this a little bit, and so did one of our speakers. But what I want to really hit on, see this introduction, and then we go down to page. See how down here it has section 1, page 1-1. That's section 1, page 1. We're going down to page 7 and 8. We had one speaker that hit on this, but I really want to make sure that you guys get this, because for young people, sometimes they don't always, I'm not talking about you guys, I'm sure you guys are different, but when I was young, I did not always think through the consequences of some actions. And so in the Arkansas driver's license manual for CDL, it talks about disqualifications. And so what you need to know is the legal limit for alcohol. The blood alcohol level normally when you are driving a car is 0.08, okay? For a truck, it is lower than that. Like it's a higher standard. So basically you cannot drink anything and drive a truck. It is a big no-no. And so that number right there, 0.04, is the number you need to memorize for the legal limit for anybody that is driving a truck. That'll get you, you'll lose your license for that for at least 1 year for a first offense. So there is no grace. There's a 1 year loss of your livelihood if you are over that limit. And remember, it is a much lower limit, it's half of the normal blood alcohol level. So you really can't drink anything and drive a truck. If you're driving under the influence of alcohol, it's just a big deal. So looking right here in the middle, driving under the influence of a controlled substance, that's another big no-no. And then refusing to undergo a blood alcohol test. That was interesting to me. Did you know that as a CDL holder, even if you're driving your car and you refuse a test, that is a way to get your license revoked. So you have to agree by taking on a CDL, you are agreeing that anytime, any day you would take a blood alcohol test. And so, yeah, and if you don't, it suspends your license. You can get canceled. It's a big deal. If you're in an accident that causes a fatality through negligence, that's a way to lose your license. That's kind of an obvious one, but you know, and that's a huge deal, obviously. You could lose your CDL for at least 3 years if you are convicted of any of these things and you're carrying hazardous materials. So if you have that's an endorsement that you can get. If you're carrying hazardous materials and you get any of these violations, it's automatic 3 years, no CDL. And then if you have a second offense, it's a lifetime loss of your CDL. So it's pretty serious, is what I want you to hear from me. It's really, really serious. If you commit a felony while you're driving, then that's a loss. You could be out of service for 24 hours if you have a detectable amount of alcohol of a 0.04 or more. So let's say that you're not driving, but for whatever reason, you have to take a blood alcohol, test. 0.4 or more, you have to wait 24 hours before you can drive. So what that tells you is you shouldn't be drinking on Saturday and driving on Sunday. That's what that tells you. Shouldn't be drinking on the weekend and driving Monday morning. Got to have a 24-hour period between any alcohol consumption and driving of your truck. So over here, we're talking a little bit about serious traffic violations. And so you can lose your CDL for 60 days. So think about how much money a truck driver makes in 60 days. Not only that, your company could probably fire you for that. And then you could lose it for 120 days if you get 3 or more serious traffic violations. So let's go over, I want to show you that this manual is really just right there, going over to Trucking Truth. Okay, so in Trucking Truth, I'm going to show you how it lines up to that driving manual. So we'll come back to that one because I want to get to the violation. So I'm in Rules and Regulations. Let's see here, page 2, requirements. I'm looking for the alcohol part. Just a second. I just went over this. Rules and Regulations. Let's try page 3. Okay, yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to show you how the Trucking Truth manual lines up to the Arkansas driving manual because I like the way that it's organized better. And so once we have done that comparison, I'm going to take you here, and this is what we're going to use for the remainder of our teaching time. So here's what's important to know. With a CDL, you have requirements to report certain things to the Secretary of State of Arkansas. Look right here in the Trucking Truth. Anytime you see this, that gives you some special information. And it says most states have the same reporting requirements that we're about to go over, but you can check your state specific CDL manual. So we have already got ours and we already know where to find that information. All right, so things you have to report. Let's say that you're on vacation and you're driving in Texas and you get a ticket, just a regular speeding ticket. You have to report that to the Arkansas Secretary of State within 30 days of a conviction, or if you plead guilty to it. Like, I plead guilty, I was speeding, I pay the fine. You have to report that to our Secretary of State in Arkansas. Any out-of-state suspension, revocation, or cancellation of driving privileges. So let's say you moved out of state for a period of time and for whatever reason, your driver's license got suspended. You have to report that in Arkansas within 30 days. And then a change of name or address change, you only have 10 days to change that, or within 10 days. So the driver has 30 days to obtain a corrected CDL, but you have to report it to your Secretary of State within 10 days, and then you have 30 days to go to the revenue office and get your updated license. You have to notify your employer of any traffic violation within 30 days of the conviction. That's speeding, DWI, anything. And then any suspension or revocation or cancellation of driving privileges, as well as disqualifications for out-of-state services. So anything that happens out of state, you have to report back to Arkansas and to your employer within a very short period of time, about 30 days. Complete employment and driving record for the previous 10 years. So you have to turn in a driving record for the last 10 years for your CDL. So if you have lots of driving violations as a young person, it's going to come back to haunt you. It could come back to haunt you. So these are things that your employers have to be privy of. And you go here and it talks about, again, the alcohol provisions. I'm going to click on this because that means, hey, this is something you really need to pay attention to. Notice it says questions about the alcohol are very common on the written exam, so you need to know this. Be familiar with these bullet points and memorize 0.04 blood alcohol level or concentration, BAC. Blood alcohol concentration is the legal limit for commercial drivers. So lock it in, 0.04 blood alcohol content. And so, also understand that any amount of alcohol in a driver's system will put him or her out of service for 24 hours. So if you drink on Sunday, you cannot go to work on Monday morning with alcohol still in your system. All right, so those are things that you need to know about. And this is a super common thing to have on the written exam. And so right here, it goes through the exact things that we just talked about from the Arkansas manual. I like this format better. And so this is where we're going to land. I just wanted to show you both. Okay. Other offenses leading to disqualification. So we're going to click on this because that says, hey, there's something really important here. Well, you probably don't need to memorize all offenses leading to disqualification. Be familiar with the below offenses, so the ones they're going to list, and make note of the duration of the disqualification for each offense. So this may be a part where when you're going through this and studying on your own, you may want to take some notes just to help you remember these things. Knowingly and willfully leaving the scene of an accident, that's a 1-year suspension. Leaving the scene of an accident, 1-year suspension. You do not want to do that, even if it is not your fault, even if you are not involved, but you were very closely involved. Do not leave that accident. Stay there, go through the process, because if you leave 12 months, CDL gone. Committing a felony while operating a truck, that's a disqualification for 12 months. So whatever that might be, that could be possession of something you shouldn't have, theft, things like that. A conviction for either offense above will carry while carrying hazardous materials. that's a 3-year disqualification. So when you're carrying hazardous materials, the stakes just go up. Just so 3 years hazardous materials. A conviction for violation of an out of service order results in disqualification for a minimum of 6 months. Out of service order, the guy that I have recorded for today, he talks about this. It's like you can drive for so many hours and then you have to be out of service for 10 hours straight. So if you get caught, not taking your break from driving, your 10-hour break, that's what this is talking about. Note, it is a 6-month disqualification. So you got to take your breaks. That's the gist of it. I know we want to get there and get done and get on the way, and we want to make that money, but you have to rest. That's the law. The use of a CMV, and that just means a truck, or a non-CMV. So now we're at your car, your pickup truck, or your big truck, in the commission of a felony involving manufacturing, distribution, or dispensing a controlled substance, or possession with intent to manufacture, distribute, or disperse a controlled substance, results in a lifetime disqualification. So if you use a car or a truck and do any of this stuff, you won't be a CDL driver anymore. Operating a commercial motor vehicle in violation of regulations pertaining to railroad highway grade crossing. First conviction, 60-day disqualification. Second conviction, 3 years. And then a 3-year period within a 3-year period. So you do it once, and then within 3 years, you do it a second time. That's a 120-day disqualification. So that's basically 4 months. And then a third one is within a 3-year period. It's a 1-year disqualification, AKA know the rules about railroad crossings and follow them to the T. All right, excessive speeding. Here we go, excessive speeding, and we'll click on this because that tells you what to memorize. Memorize that excessive speeding is 15 miles per hour or more over the speed limit. Excessive speeding is also considered a serious traffic violation. And when they say serious, so it'll say, any serious traffic violation. Well, guess what? Excessive speeding is that. And I'm going to tell you something. I have gone 80 miles an hour in a 65-mile-an-hour zone. And if I'm completely honest with you, I do it on a regular basis. Like pretty common for me when I'm out on 412 going to Huntsville. Guess what? I'm going 80 in a 65. That's 15 miles an hour over. If I had a CDL, that could cost me, for a period of time, my CDL license. So if I had a CDL and I made my living as a truck driver, I would not go more than 15 miles per hour over the limit. I would keep it under that. So 79 in a 65, that's your limit, dudes. Okay. Excessive speeding. And so 15 miles per hour or over, failure to reduce speed to avoid an accident. Let's say you're speeding and it causes an accident, driving too fast for the conditions, and then exceeding the speed limit in a school zone. So remember, school zones are a big deal. It's a big deal for all of us. That's where I don't speed for sure, is in a school zone. Reckless driving, operating your commercial motor vehicle, CMV, commercial motor vehicle, so your truck or your car or your pickup, in a manner that exhibits a willful or wanton reckless disregard for the safety of persons or property. So passing a vehicle stopped for a pedestrian in a crosswalk, driving on a sidewalk, passing a school bus. So, hey guys, guess what? No driving on sidewalks. That's a big no-no. Okay, here we go. Passing a school bus. This is one that people get, like they do not follow sometimes. And so this is really important, and this is whether you're in your car or in your big truck driving. So you can't have these kinds of violations in your car either. This is something that I did not understand, that when you are driving your car, it can actually cause you to lose your CDL. So be careful. And then if you don't have a valid CDL, you're driving a truck and you don't have your CDL, you can get big time fines. You're following too closely. This can be a big violation. Failure of a truck to leave sufficient distance for being overtaken by another vehicle. And that means giving enough space between you and the people in front of you. We're going to learn more about spacing later. And then improper lane usage. So that would be in the wrong lane. So staying in the left lane whenever you're not passing, and then erratic traffic lane changes. So back and forth. And so remember that these are true of not only your truck, but also your car. You can't get these types of violations. Notice, reckless driving, your regular car is a part of that. So lane usage, improper passing, passing on a hill or a curve, wrong side, driving on the wrong side of the road, passing on the shoulder. Not that any of you guys have ever done any of this, but don't do it from here on out because you don't want your CDL to be at risk. Obviously, conviction involving a fatal accident, multiple licenses, we're not going to worry about that for now. Traffic violations, 2 serious traffic violations in a 3-year period results in a 2-month disqualification. So remember, it said to memorize the amount of time. So 2 serious violations. And guess what? All of the things we just talked about are serious violations by definition. So in a 3-year period, 2-month disqualification. 3 serious traffic violations in the same period, 3 years, is a 4-month disqualification. So remember, serious traffic violations include excessive speeding, reckless driving, no valid CDL, following too closely, improper lane usage, and any conviction of a traffic violation involving a fatal accident, and then possessing multiple licenses. All right, guys. Now, here we go. A little competition there at your place. If you've got more than one person, ready? You are going to determine who knows the answers. So here we go. Question number 1. Which of the following will disqualify a CDL holder from operating a commercial motor vehicle or CMV for a minimum of 12 months? Any driver operating a CMV or a non-CMV who refuses to submit to a chemical testing or submits to a test with results of excess the legal limit. And then all of these, but let's go down and see if the others. All of these will disqualify a CDL holder for 12 months. Any driver convicted of a DUI, anyone convicted of driving a CMV with any amount of drug, substance, or compound resulting from unlawful use or consumption of cannabis listed in the Cannabis Control Act or controlled substance listed in the Controlled Substance Act. So, which one is it? Let's put it in the chat, guys. Let's go ahead and see what we got. Have your coach or somebody take over the computer and put it in the chat. Which one do you think? And we'll just say the top is A, B, C, D. Okay, so we're going to go with B. Here we go. All right, next. Following too closely is considered a serious traffic violation. Which of these is considered following too closely? Failure of a truck to leave sufficient distance for being overtaken by another vehicle. So you don't have enough room between you and the guy in front of you for a person to pass you. Less than 12 seconds of following distance. Less than 400 feet of following distance. Less than 8 seconds of following distance. We didn't talk about this right now, so we're going back to, you're going to have to look back and see if we didn't talk about any of this. We know this one was there, but are these, either of these true? Put it in the chat. What do you think? Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm not really sure which one. I don't know the answer, honestly. So I'm gonna pick one and then we'll do the review and find out for sure. I know that the top one was a part of what we talked about. So, but are the others true also? Let's find out. We're gonna put, you know what? That doesn't have an all of the above. And I know this one was there. We talked about that one. So I'm gonna choose this one. Here we go. What constitutes excessive speeding? You all should know this one. We talked a lot about it. So I'm not even going to give you a whole lot of time. You know that it's 15 miles an hour or more above the posted speed limit. Next, commercial driver may be placed out of service with how much alcohol in his or her system? This is a trick question. If you have a blood alcohol level of over 0.04, you know that you can be convicted of a DUI. But remember that to be out of service, it was any amount. You have to take a 24-hour break with any amount of alcohol. I think this is a trick question. Next one. If you are caught violating a DOT out of service order, now a reminder, out of service means that you have to take a 10-hour break after driving for 16 hours. That's what the guy tells us in our video for today. 10-hour break, you're out of service order. You will receive a driving disqualification for how long? How long was that if you did not do your out of service order? Put it in the chat. You guys talk it over and put it in the chat. So far, I've got B 1 year. Is that how long it is for the out of service order? I can't remember. Let's try it. Minimum of 1 year. We'll come back and look at it in a second. Commercial drivers must notify their employer about the following, except, be sure you note in just good test taking skills, you're looking for the wrong answer here because it's got to do this except for this. Current marital status, well, that's probably the most obvious. Complete employment and driving record, yes, we remember talking about that. Any suspension, revocation, of course, they need to know that. Any traffic violation, of course, they need to know that. So we're going to go with marital status because nobody cares about your marital status. Excessive speeding is considered a serious traffic violation. All of the following are grounds for excessive speeding except, so driving too fast for the conditions, yes, that is. Failure to reduce speed to avoid an accident. Exceeding the speed limit by 10 miles per hour. Exceeding the speed limit in a school zone. We know for sure it's 15 miles per hour, so this is the exception. All right, let's move on. Reckless driving is considered a serious traffic violation. All of the following are grounds for reckless driving except passing a vehicle stopped for a pedestrian in a crosswalk. Most of these are common sense, don't you guys think? Driving on a sidewalk, not that you would ever do that. Passing a school bus, we know we can't do that. Performing an illegal U-turn. Obviously, these three were the ones that we talked about, but did you know an illegal U-turn is not a serious traffic violation? It's a violation, it's just not a serious traffic violation. There we go. The operator of a commercial motor vehicle can be criminally charged with driving under the influence of alcohol with a blood alcohol content of, what's the right number, guys? What's the right number? As a reminder, in a car, it's 0.08. Half of that. It is very, very low when you're driving a truck. How long will a driver be placed out of service with a 0.02 blood alcohol content? Now, by out of service, they're not talking about losing your license. They're just saying you can't drive during that time. And we know that any blood alcohol content is a 24-hour out of service. Serious traffic violations carry additional penalties. All of these are serious traffic violations except, let you guys read those. and take a look. No, these are all three things that we talked about. So let's go with all of them. Traffic violations which are deemed serious by the DOT carry additional consequences. What is an example of a serious violation? Notice they're hitting this over and over. What that tells you is it's really important to know which ones are serious. Let you look at those. It's obviously all of those because we just talked about those. Knowingly and willfully leaving the scene of an accident while operating a CMV or a non-CMV. So that means commercial motor vehicle, your truck or your car, either one, you leave the scene of an accident, results in a disqualification for how long? Does anybody remember? Guys, put it in the chat. How long are you disqualified if you leave the scene of an accident? Anyone? Oh, I can't remember those details. This tells you you have to know those details. I'm going to go with 12 months. I'm guessing, to be completely honest, I'm guessing. Okay. Click the answer key. Which one did we miss? Number 5. So if you were caught violating a DOT out of service order, so that's your got to be out for your 10-hour rest, or if you've had alcohol, your 24-hour rest, you will receive a driving disqualification for, we put a year, it is 6 months. So you got to be out of service, you're still driving, 6 months. Let's lock that in. The rest of them we got correct. So we are doing pretty good. Not too shabby, guys. Not too shabby. Okay. Now let's go back to rules and regulations. And we're going to go to part 4. Size limitations. So there are a couple of things here. You have to know how the width, the length, the height, and the weight limitations that are legally allowed for a truck. And so let's kind of go through those fairly quickly, and then we're going to go over and do a little bit of testing. Okay, so width. The maximum width for most vehicles traveling in the United States interstate system is 8 feet 6 inches. Guys, you might want to write that down. Y'all jot it down, and then we'll use that little note on our test. So width, 8 foot 6 inches. All right. When we click on this, it tells you details. So the only thing you'll need to memorize for maximum width is 8 foot 6 inches. If you're curious to learn, you can go to your state manual, but we already have our state manual. So 8 foot 6 inches. Length. The most important number to memorize in this paragraph is the maximum allowable trailer length of 53 feet. Trailer length, 53 feet. You guys might want to write that down. State-specific information concerning the distance from the kingpin to the rear axle is not likely to show up on your exam. So let's take a quick look at that length. No vehicle with or without a load other than a semi-trailer shall exceed the length of 42 feet. So if you're talking about a straight truck, it has to be less than 42 feet. Semi-trailers may have an overall length of 53 feet, including the load being carried. However, for semi-trailers, let's back up, including the load being carried. If you were had a flatbed and something was extending off the end of the flatbed, you have to include that length, okay? However, for semi-trailers more than 48 feet in length, the maximum allowable distance from the kingpin to the rear axle can vary by state. It says you are not likely to have to know that part. So if you are in a straight truck, 42 feet. The main thing you need to memorize is any trailer has to be 53 feet or less, okay? Exceptions to these limitations are vehicles hauling pipes, poles, machinery, or other structural objects that cannot be quickly taken apart. In most states, the length of these objects may not exceed 80 feet, except for the public utility emergency repairs for those holding special permits. These vehicles are not allowed to operate when it is dark or on Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays. So let's take a look at this. The only thing you really need to remember here is that oversized vehicles, which include over the length vehicles, may not operate when it's dark, and then generally accepted as sundown to sunrise. So after dark is the big deal, and then it also says weekends and holidays. So you can do things, but there are limitations on that if you exceed things hanging over the back of, off the back of your flatbed truck. Maximum height for all vehicles on all designated state and federal highways is 13 feet, 6 inches. Write that down. Height, 13 feet, 6 inches. You're going to have to memorize that. So very important, super important. It says, it is extremely likely that you'll receive a question on the written exam regarding maximum allowable vehicle height. Be certain to memorize 13 feet, 6 inches as the maximum height allowed. A few states do have their own limits, usually 14 or 14.6, but all states must abide by the federal minimum of accepting vehicles that are at least 13.6 on designated federal and state highways. So 13.6 is the magic number that you need to memorize, 13.6. And weight, the maximum weight limits on both designated and non-designated streets. So that's whether you're on a local street and, going down any street in your town or on a major highway, are 20,000 pounds on a single axle, 34,000 pounds on a tandem, and 80,000 pounds of total weight on a 5-axle combination, depending on the axle spacing. So let's take a look at what we must memorize. It's crucial that you understand and memorize the below vehicle weight limits, especially the weight limits per tandem and total weight. Be sure you understand the difference between an axle and a tandem. Tandem is a pair of axles. So when you have 2 axles side by side, you guys know this, on the back of a trailer, it usually has the 2 axles. And then on the back of the truck, it usually has the 2 axles. And then the front of the trailer will have whatever it has. Sometimes it has one, sometimes it doesn't. And then the front of the truck has one. So axle is a single axle, tandem is a double axle. So what are those again? You probably want to jot these down. 20,000 pounds on a single axle. 34,000 pounds on a tandem. And 80,000 pounds total. All right. So those are things that we have to memorize. Here we go. Quick test, and then we're going to go to something slightly different. Here we go. All right, what's the maximum trailer length allowed? Try not to look at your notes. 53. Straight up. Here we go. Following too closely is considered, oh, look at this. They're throwing in some review questions. I love it. Just keep your mind on these things. It's very good. Following too closely is considered a serious traffic violation. Which of these is considered following too closely? We know that it is basically, there's not a distance that it's giving you. Failure of a truck to leave sufficient distance for being overtaken. That's the serious violation. These others are probably violations, but this is a serious violation. What's the maximum height for vehicles on all highways? If I remember correctly, it was 13.6, wasn't it? There may be local that are 14 or 14.6, like Arkansas may have a slightly different rule, but Overall, 13.6, if I remember correctly. Traffic violations which are deemed serious by the DOT carry additional consequences. What is an example of a serious traffic violation? You guys check it out. I'm sure you got this. We've reviewed it several times now, all of those. Excessive speeding, improper lane usage, and following too closely are all serious. Operator of a commercial motor vehicle can be criminally charged with driving under the influence if they have a BAC of how much? Got it locked in. I want to draw your attention to something. Notice how this program goes back and repeats other things. So this is excellent. It's excellent. By the time you finish and go through each of these sections of training, it will have reviewed so many times that you are going to have this information memorized. 0.04, remember 0.08 is your car or your pickup? 0.04, much lower level for your big truck. What is the maximum allowable weight on a tandem axle, the double axle? Which is it? As a reminder, it's 20,000 pounds for a single, 80,000 pounds for the total vehicle, and 34,000 pounds for a tandem. If you're caught violating a DOT out of service order, you should be taking a break and you're not, you will receive a driving disqualification for, this is the one we missed, I think, isn't it? I want to say, what was that? Somebody put it in the chat. Six months, that's right on. Thank you, Huntsville. Okay, and which of the following will disqualify a CDL holder from operating a commercial motor vehicle for a minimum of 12 months? Okay, so minimum of 12 months. Which ones were these? I want you to read through those. Any driver convicted of a DUI, regardless of the blood alcohol level, all of these, anyone convicted of driving a commercial motor vehicle with any amount of drug or substance or compound resulting in unlawful use or consumption of cannabis, any driver operating a CMV or non-CMV who refuses to submit to a chemical test. So is it 12 months for all of those? That's the question. Is this a trick question based on this amount of time? We have to know those times. I'm going to look this one up. From the manual, law requires that if you're driving either a CMV or a non-CMV on highways to automatically give their consent to determine the blood alcohol level. Any driver operating a CMV who refuses the test, any driver, and that's 12 months, there's my length of time. Any driver convicted of a DUI, 12 months. If either violation above takes place while transporting hazardous, it's 3 years. Driver who commits two of the above violations arising from two or more incidents, disqualified for life. So 12 months basically is the one that we need to memorize there for this question. And then a CDL holder operating CMV found to have any alcohol in his or her system is placed out of service for 24 hours. All right. So we can now go back. How do we get back to our question? There we go. Which of the following will disqualify a CDL holder from operating a commercial vehicle for a minimum of 12 months? Any DUI, anyone convicted of drugs, anyone who refuses a test, those are all a part of that. So all of these. Knowingly and willfully leaving the scene of an accident while operating a CMV or a non-CMV, so that's your car too, results in disqualification for how long? I don't remember how long that was, so I'm going to go look it up. From the manual, 12 months. Knowingly and willfully leaving the scene of an accident while operating a CMV or a non-CMV, 12 months. So I'm going to go back to the question. 12 months. So you're seeing how to use this again, how to use this program that they have for you, how you can use it best to learn. What's the maximum allowed vehicle width designated on U.S. interstates? What was that maximum width? Now, this one, they're kind of trying to trick you because they have two that are very close together. One of these is the right answer. Which was it? Was it 8 feet 9 or 8 feet 6? So far, I haven't seen anything that wasn't, if it had a partial foot, but all the things we've seen were 6 inches. 13.6 is how high it can be, and then 8.6 was how wide it could be. Commercial drivers must notify their employer about the following except, so which one do we not have to notify? Any traffic violation within 30 days of the date of conviction. Yep, we got to notify them of that. Current marital status. Obviously, we already remember that because it was just so dumb on marital status. So any suspension or revocation or cancellation of your license, and then you have to give them a complete employment or driving record for the last 10 years at any point that they ask for it. So marital status, nobody cares. Excessive speeding is considered a serious traffic violation. All of the following are grounds for excessive speeding except failure to reduce speed to avoid an accident, exceeding the speed limit in a school zone, exceeding the speed limit by 10 miles per hour, driving too fast for conditions. Remember, 15 miles per hour is the magic number. So this is not a serious violation. It is a violation, just not a serious one. The maximum allowable width for commercial vehicles on designated state highways. So what was the width? Let's put this one in the chat. What was the maximum width? Anybody? You remember back to this previous question, it was 8 foot 6 inches. So none of these are correct. All right, here we go. What is the maximum weight for a 5-axle combination vehicle? So that's max weight. You're going to remember this one. I know you guys already know this. We know that 20,000 was for a single axle, 34 was for a tandem, and 80 was the maximum total. All right, let's double check. Oh, we got one more. Reckless driving is considered a serious traffic violation. All of the following are grounds for reckless driving except, you remember, we got passing in for someone stopped in a pedestrian or a crosswalk, passing a school bus when they're got their lights going, driving on a sidewalk. Those are the 3 that they mentioned, and obviously the illegal U-turn violation, just not a serious traffic violation. All right. And excessive speeding, we know this is 15. We've got that nailed down. And here we go. Let's look at our answers and see if we missed any. We got everything correct. Look at that. Okay. So you guys are getting the feel for how this training program works. This is an excellent resource for you. So we are going to go back to our prep information. And I think what we need to do, I had hoped, actually, I want to get rid of that one. This one is the one we want. I had kind of hoped to go through a little bit more and just watch some videos on the brakes, the air brakes, but I think we're going to have to stretch this out a little bit more. There is just a tremendous amount of information. And so part 2 for today is me allowing you guys there at your place to use the H.I.R.E.D CDL training program. That's what we've been using this whole time, the Trucking Truth, to go in and do more practice. And where I want you to be at, if you go look at it, so whenever you get logged in and you get down here, I'm going to click back. When you go to the H.I.R.E.D training program, it has you're looking for this section. So I want you guys to get on your Chromebooks, get logged in, and I want you to find the place that looks like this. And so when I go there, I go over here, H.I.R.E.D online training. Whenever you click the hot dogs over here to the top left, H.I.R.E.D online training, it takes you to this page. This is different than where we were last week. Last week we had all of the stuff up here. It was the practice tests. So today we're not doing practice tests straight away. What we're doing is going piece by piece through this and then doing the practice that they give you. And so what our goal is this week, this is a lot of information. This is the longest section of this whole thing. This week, going through rules and regulations. When you click on that, that's part 1. And then all of those pages. So that's what we've been doing. This week, you are required, this is your homework, to get through all of the rules and regulations, all of the pages, and then the driving safely. Look at that. Oh my gosh, that is a lot of information. And so what I'm asking you to do this week between now and next Thursday, I'm asking you to read through. So you would, like we've done this, so now you're going to click on page 5. Quickly going through this, making sure you're clicking on each of these that are required. When it says, remember that the amber and red lights must be visible for 500 feet. And then when you get through reading all that information, clicking on the picture of the truck and going through the practice questions. And then checking your answer. If you do not automatically know the answer, go down to right here. Back up, sorry. Page 4. So let's go back here. Click on the truck, my bad. Special lighting. Go to page 4 and it'll take you. Man, that does not work the way it did on the other one. Here we go. Let's do the next. There we go. There it popped up. It wasn't loaded. So when we get there, notice this, review the question from page 3, click here to answer. If you don't automatically know the answer, go review it and find the answer. So click on that, scroll down. It gives you the answer from the manual. So when you go through those test questions, review the answer if you do not know them, and then answer it correctly every time. Okay, so that is your assignment. So I want you to jot this down. You ready? Your assignment, rules and regulations and driving safely. Those 2 sections, you are required to read through those, go through each section. So when you click on it, you're going to go to page 1 through 6. So if I'm on page 6, I'm reading through this. When you get down, you're clicking on the truck, you're going through the questions, you're doing the review if you don't know the answer, taking notes on what you need to memorize. Notice this one's a review question. It's going to give you so much review that by the time you finish those sections, you're going to know the previous section. If you want to be like the superstar student, you will just start working your way through anything that says permit on it. You don't have to do endorsements, only permit stuff. So that is your assignment for next week. So everybody has that written down. I'm going to put it on the document, and your coaches have this document and they can send that to you. So the rest of our time today, there are 2 things I want you to do. So it is 9:56. The rest of our time today we schedule till 10:15 just to practice. Secondly, I want you to ask your coach, are there any other times that you could come in and just sit in their room and go through working on your homework assignment, which are the first 2, rules and regulations and driving safely. Is there time that you can come in during RTI or during, whatever extra time you have? Do you have a class where you're ahead or you're caught up? Can you work on this during class? So let's just say you're in an ag class. I'll toss that out there. You finish your assignment real quick and you have 15 minutes left. Get on here and be going through this because you need to be studying this permit information on your own. So any extra time you have between now and next Thursday, I want you to be engaging with this. I'm going to talk to the coaches later about taking a whole day, coming up where we just work on this information. We're going to try and see if we can put that together. I don't know if we can, but we're going to work on that as a possibility. All right. So here we go. You guys are released. I'm going to stop sharing. You guys are released to work on your own, and I will add in the homework to our document, and we will get started next week promptly at 9 o'clock. Thank you guys for paying attention and working hard at this. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yep, you are very welcome.